Welcome to Dedicated Perspective with Monica, where real life meets real perspective. This is a space for honest conversation about business, money, mindset, motherhood, and honestly, everything in between. I'm here to share my unfiltered thoughts, lessons, experiences, not because I have all the answers, but because sometimes a different perspective is exactly what you need to move forward. Babe, I'm just here to give you my 2 cents dedicated to your growth. Have the audacity. I want to ask you something. Have you ever looked at someone and thought, wow, they're so confident. I could never do that. Or maybe told yourself like, oh, when I'm more prepared or when I have more money or when I know more, then I'll start. I used to think that confidence came first. And then one day I just woke up and thought, why am I afraid? And I just became that woman that did not have all the answers, but I was going to learn and I was going to learn something. Confidence doesn't always create action. Action is what creates confidence. And I think that's where so many of us get stuck. We're waiting to become someone instead of just becoming her by starting. If you listen to my trailer on Instagram, then you know that I shared one of the hardest lessons of my life. I remember crying to my mom, like hysterical, y'all. Like if someone had died, that had never happened to me. And it's not even because of money. I wasn't crying over money. I had a good job. I wasn't crying over a job. I wasn't crying because my life was bad, but I was crying because on the outside, I looked so successful and I felt so miserable, y'all. Like my life was dragging in so many other ways and I couldn't understand why, because everything that society had said that I needed to have, I had. So why was I feeling so empty inside? Like deep down inside, I knew I wasn't living the life that I truly wanted. And I wasn't stuck because I lacked opportunity. Because if you know me, I will create an opportunity out of anything. I was stuck because I kept choosing to feel safe instead of just betting on me. I kept waiting for permission. And I know I've talked about this in other episodes, but like truly, I kept waiting for some type of permission. Like a parent was going to come give me a permission to unfeel what I was feeling, waiting until I felt ready, waiting until I felt confident. And the truth is that that day never came. As I'm speaking on this podcast, you don't understand the thoughts that go into what I'm saying and how many times I overthink things, but I still get on here and do it. I think most people play small, not because they're lazy. I think they play small because fear sounds responsible. Fear tell us stay where it's stable. Don't embarrass yourself. Don't risk what you've built. Don't disappoint your family. Don't fail publicly. Fear is really out here just trying to convince us. It disguises itself by being practical. And before you know it, years have gone by and you've become really good at explaining why right now is not a good time. One thing I've learned, fear doesn't usually scream. Baby, it whispers. Maybe next year, maybe after the kids get older, maybe after you save a little bit more, maybe after you get that one more certification, maybe one more class. And suddenly that never happens. And don't get me wrong. Again, I am a true Virgo when it comes down to stuff. I love stability. I love, knowing what's coming next. But betting on yourself is all of the opposite. So let me tell you something. When I went through my divorce, one of my biggest fears wasn't the divorce itself. Truthfully, it was what would people think? Was starting over the right choice? I kept wondering, am I strong enough to build the kind of marriage that my parents have? My parents have a marriage of 30 plus years and have been through hell and back and always make it out on top. So my fear was not just, oh, you're going to get a divorce, but my fear kept whispering, this is 7 years. But then I also thought about in the back of my mind, this is 7 years of dragging me down, 7 years of being stuck. Not because I didn't know what I wanted, but because I was scared of what it would look like from the outside. So I had to get real with myself. Sometimes we're not afraid of failing. We're afraid of people watching us try. Especially growing up Hispanic, everyone has an opinion. I grew up hearing something in Spanish saying, si eres gorda, van a hablar. Si eres flaca, van a hablar también. So the saying in Spanish goes, if you're overweight, they're going to talk. And if you're skinny, they're going to talk. And the older I've gotten, I realized they weren't talking about bodies. They were talking about life. So let me run it back for you. And let me give you other examples. If you stay in your hometown, people are going to talk. If you leave your hometown, guess what? They're going to talk anyways. If you get married young, they'll try to disconvince you and say, like, what are you doing? You're ruining your life. And if you wait, they'll ask you, what are you waiting for? If you have kids, they'll talk and be like, oh my gosh, she had her kids, she ruined her life. And if you don't, they're going to be asking you, like, what the hell's your problem? Why don't you have kids and you're in your 30s? If you start a business, they'll question you. If it fails, they're just going to be like, oh my God, I told you so. But then if it succeeds, suddenly you had everybody's support from the beginning. And I know those opinions can be so heavy, especially when they come from the people you love. Sometimes people aren't trying to stop you. They're trying to protect you because they have had bad experience. But here's what I've learned. Protection keeps you small. It isn't protection if they're trying to cage you. Eventually, I had to ask myself when I was in this situation, am I building a life around other people's opinion or around the purpose of my life? So eventually, I became someone who betted on herself. And here's what I've learned, because I will tell you this. When I had to bet on myself, I had to go against a lot of opinions, including my husband's. Not because he's a bad person, but because he and I think differently. And please, when I say this, that man loves me dearly. But because the way we grew up with so much structure that he was scared. And now that we're on the other side, he understands why I did what I did. And he truly supports me in everything I do. And I'm so grateful to have the man that I do have, because without his support, it would have been so much harder. So please know this. When you build Audacity, it's going to take some barriers you have to break through. And I'm going to give you some tips that I had to do to even get through to my husband. Because if you don't believe in you, then why is anybody else going to believe in you? So the first thing I had to do was borrow belief. Now, what the hell is that, Monica? Like, how do you borrow belief? Now, you don't have to believe every single day in yourself. Like, there's going to be realistically, like, it's going to be hard. As a woman, especially as a woman that overthinks, there's going to be days that you lack self-esteem. But you know what's one thing I did? I got myself a mentor. And so having a mentor, I had to borrow that belief from someone else. Someone else had to remind me who the hell I was. You know who else belief I had to borrow? Remember, I told you I had to break barriers. And as I started breaking those barriers, my spouse started believing in me in some of the things that I couldn't really believe or couldn't see through. Literally, I had to borrow my spouse's belief for a moment too. Like, my husband was like, you know what? You're already in it. Like, let's go, like, keep going. Don't stop. You know who else's belief I had to borrow? God, baby. God. I had to sit with God, sit with the Bible, literally open that Bible and just like, God, talk to me. What do I need to hear? What do I need to see? What am I not getting through in my brain right now that I can't see? God wouldn't place something in my heart just to watch me be afraid to pursue it. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that God is not going to watch me fail, because that's how we learn. But borrowing the belief of God and really just him reminding me all the things I'm capable of, it's like such a different spiritual level that only you will have to go through it yourself. And yes, you may have a mentor. Yes, you may have a spouse, or maybe you don't even have none of those things, right? Let's say like right now in your life, the only thing that you have is God. Baby, then sit down with God and literally tell God, like, I do this thing that I write letters to God. And whether it's a good day or a bad day, I will write letters to God and say, like, God, right now, I'm just not feeling myself. And although I don't know what's going on in my brain that it's making me feel this, because I have so many things to work towards, I'm just not feeling confident. And that's being truthful, right? You have to do whatever works for you. So if you don't have a spouse, if you don't have a mentor, if you don't even have a good friend in your corner, because trust me, I've already talked about this. I thought I had good friends in my corner, and then all of a sudden that kind of diminished. I literally turned to God. And I know everybody that's listening to this may believe different things, but I truly do believe that entrepreneurship is some type of spiritual journey. Like this isn't easy. And even if you're just starting to build a side hustle, or even if you're in corporate America, there was times even in corporate America that I returned to God because I didn't know what I was doing or what direction I wanted to. So I hope that when you're starting to build the audacity to do whatever it is in your life, that you borrow someone's belief. If it's not human, then baby, let it be spiritual. Now, number two that I had to do is stop asking, what if it failed? Instead, I had to become a little delulu. I had to literally tell myself, what if it works? It's funny because we'll spend hours imagining all the things that could go wrong, but we never imagine all the things that could go right. What if this business changes the future of my family? What if posting this video, this content connects me to opportunities that I've been praying for? What if applying for this thing opens the next door? What if it just freaking works? Why don't we alter our brains to just think positive? Remember, this is the dedicated perspective with Monica. Perspective is everything. The more negative you think, the more negative outcomes will brew up in your brain. But what if we just switch that perspective a little bit and be like, baby, what if this works? What if I bet on myself and no matter what, no matter how many times I fall, no matter how many bruises I get along the way, I'm still going to brush it off and keep going. Number three, I build evidence. Baby, the same way you build evidence and you build a case on that man that was doing you wrong, I'm going to need you to do the same thing about your life. This had to be one of the biggest lessons I've learned. Confidence isn't built by affirmations. I can tell myself affirmations all damn day. But you know what builds confidence? Receipts. What receipts are you talking about, Monica? Because right now you sound a little crazy. And the evidence I'm talking about is this. That content, that first video that you post, maybe you talking to the screen, baby, that's evidence that you're trying. That first rejection that you survived, that's evidence that you're trying. That first client that you signed and that made you money, even if it's going right back into the bills, that's evidence that you're trying. That first event that you finally hosted, that's evidence. Every uncomfortable thing you survive becomes proof that you are capable of surviving the next thing. That's how confidence grows. Not before you act, because you acted. Number four, decide before you are ready. Let me say that again. Decide before you are ready. Every major decision in my life I've made felt weird, felt uncomfortable, felt like I was not ready to take on that next thing. Leaving corporate was hard as hell. Leaving corporate a second time when I didn't even have a newborn and I didn't have the clutch to hold on to saying that my baby was little and I needed to stay home with him was horrible. Like literally, you might as well have dragged my face through the mud. Starting a tax business where nobody believed in me was hard. Starting a tax business and people leaving my tax business because they thought I wasn't prepared enough was harder. It was even freaking harder than starting the damn business and wanting to continue this. Opening my travel agency, although I travel so much, was hard. Especially, starting a business with my husband. Baby, I came from a divorce. I know how things can get when things get ugly. So starting a business with my husband, my current husband, was really hard for me because it was like, I have to trust in someone else and trusting this vision for another business that I want to start. That business is no longer all mine. Babe, launching this podcast, my podcast coach, and you heard me, I had a podcast coach. My podcast coach can tell you I went through so many trials and tribulations to get to this point. I've had podcasting on my vision board for the last 2, maybe 3 years, and always some BS excuse that I put in my head always came up. None of those moments came after certainty. They came after a decision that I had to make. And every single time, baby, I just figured it out along the way. I told you when I started this podcast, I didn't have all the answers. So if you're looking for answers, this is not the podcast for you. This is a podcast to open up your mind and remind you about the possibilities that you are able to do. So maybe today isn't about confidence. It's about decision. The life you've been praying for or waiting for is behind an uncomfortable step, one scary conversation, one stupid application, one post that could potentially change your life, one leap. And let me go back to that post. Posting is so uncomfortable, y'all. Like for some people, it may come way easier, but for me, it's taken me a long time to get to this stage of my life. I literally have had almost 3 to 4 posts go viral in the last 30 days. And with that, please don't think, oh my gosh, my life has changed forever. No, no, no. My bank account is still the same. I went viral and it literally made me think, oh my gosh, to think of that person who started social media and everybody and their mother was judging me till now that I went viral and I'm like, oh, wow, this is not a big deal. Like, yes, it is a big deal because I'm getting so much exposure to my business. But you know what was more of a bigger deal to me is the consistency I was willing to do to continue trying to get exposure to my business. I wasn't looking for a viral post. I was just looking for exposure to the things I have to offer. And with that, when you remind yourself that it's not about like getting a viral post, it's not about the money that sits in your bank account. Like, yes, all those things will come. But baby, when you're just being you and you're just posting, of course, just with some type of strategy and making sure that you are trying to reach the people that you need to reach, everything else will fall in place. Someone else is going to start the business that you were afraid to launch. Not because they're smarter, but because they moved instead of waiting. Don't let that be your story. Betting on yourself, even if your voice shakes, even if no one claps, even if you don't know how it ends, because the woman that you are becoming is waiting after one decision. That risk will be worth it all. When I also tell you to take risks, be smart, y'all. Like, don't invest all this money. When I say these things, like, don't sit there and just like invest so much money into something and think that it's going to work. Baby, ask for help. Like, that is one of the biggest things I see with entrepreneurship. They start a business and they just want to figure out absolutely everything alone. I told you I had a podcast coach. I've been sitting on this idea for 3 years. I obviously needed some help. It took me some time, but that was the second or third mentorship I had invested in because there was a belief that I needed to borrow, a skill set that I needed to borrow in that moment that just made me feel more confident and more comfortable. Everything about betting on yourself is not comfortable, but it's so damn worth it. I hope this episode spoke to you. I want to leave you with something, and I hope that you will DM me if you listened all the way to the end. What is that one thing you're finally going to bet on yourself after this episode? I want to hear it because I want to try to hold you accountable. If you told me that you want to take your mom to Spain, even though your job is not going to give you the PTO, but you're going to bet on yourself and you're going to do it anyways and you're going to figure it out, I want to hear it. If you're going to tell me that you're going to bet on yourself and try to open up that business and maybe go to do vendor booths and maybe start just a little side hustle, I want to hold you accountable. This episode, I hope it just reminds someone who's been playing small to go for it because you don't need more confidence or you don't need permission to start. You just need to believe in you. This has been another episode of The Dedicated Perspective with Monica, and I'm just giving you my 2 cents of how to bet on yourself. And I hope to talk to you in the next episode because I have so much more tea to spill. And I cannot thank you enough for sitting here and listening to me. I truly, truly hope that your day is going amazing wherever you're listening from. If you leave here with anything, I hope it's that perspective changes everything. And betting on you will not be easy, but it will be so damn worth it. Can't wait to talk to you in the next episode. Bye.